Hi, today I will be demonstrating on how to use different tools to scan a computer for vulnerabilities, analyze the vulnerabilities, exploit the vulnerabilities, and execute against the computer. Assessing and exploiting vulnerabilities, focus on production and web server security. Task summary. Following the successful installation of a network upgrade for the client, I have been assigned to conduct an assessment on their newly configured internal production server. The objective is to identify vulnerabilities and provide specific examples of potential exploitation. Additionally, the same vulnerability assessment is required for the web server located in the client's DMZ to ensure robust security across their network infrastructure. VM network setup. The first thing we're going to do is download the production server and install the server into the virtual box. From the virtual box, click File, then click Tools, Network Manager, and then select NAT Network tab. There, create a new NAT network and name that Quick Start. All settings are already preset by default. First, I'm gonna do is verify the settings for each of the three nodes interface of the internal network. Should be all set to trusted. Then I'm gonna start running all the nodes. I recommend start running the router firewall first, since the production is connected to the firewall. Then start the web server, then the production server, and then the Kali trusted. This is the network diagram. From the network diagram, I confirm that the trusted network address is 192.168.0.0/24, which should scan all of 256 hosts from Class C. If you look down below to DMZ section, you will see that the address is 10.200.0.8/29. Production and web server address. To find out the address for the production server and the web server, open the terminal from both servers and run the command ipconfig. The address for the production server is 192.168.0.18, and the web server is 10.200.0.12. Nmap, network mapper, is also known as. You're gonna log into Kali Linux and open the Nmap, which is also shortened for N network mapper. I use Nmap to banner grab all of the open ports for production and the web server. These open ports are more vulnerable for exploitations. Using network mapper tool from one terminal, I ran the command nmap space dash lowercase v space dash uppercase a space 192.168.0.18, which is the production server address. Then from another terminal within nmap, I ran the same command, except I changed the address to 10.200.0.12 for the web server. The dash v prints out the version number, and the dash uppercase A enables all operating system and the version detections, script scanning, and trace route. Nmap, we're gonna test against uh, the addresses. There's only one address that we ran against, which has one open port for the production server and the web server. Since I only scanned for one network, it only showing one host is up. Open ports. Here on the left, I banner grabbed all of the open ports, showing the first few open ports like 21, 22, 23, 25. A total of 21 open ports that are risk of being exploited. All of the open ports for production and the web server are going to be the same. On the right, I have highlighted the 8 most vulnerable protocols that are or were in the risk of being exploited or was exploited. I have also noted the CVSS scores for all of the vulnerabilities. On the terminal, I can see that in port 21, FTP file transfer protocol is running the version VSTPD 2.3.4, the CVE number, and the CVS scores. From the web browser, I navigated to NVD, National Vulnerability Database, to verify the CVE number and the CVS scores for all the vulnerabilities. The version BSTPD 2.3.4 verifies that the between the dates mentioned has a backdoor. The CVE number for that is going to be CVE-2011-2523, and the CVS score is pretty high, is 9.8 out of 10, being the highest. Next, we also tested Samba version 3.x, which means anything above that or certain version within that are possible vulnerable, and some of the patches within the version could be exploited. From Samba 3.x version with CVE number being 2023-42670 and the CVSS score is 6.5, is considered relatively medium, even though we will demonstrate later on that this one is vulnerable and we are able to exploit. Metasploit framework. Now keep this terminal open, and then from the Kali Linux application, run Metasploit framework to log in with your Kali credentials. Once the Metasploit tool is opened, I run the command search space VSFTPD space 2.3.4. There I can confirm that the backdoor is related to the version, and I can possibly exploit to compromise the target machine. Uh, there you can also see the rank, which is excellent. It has higher chance of being compromised. There I'm going to run the command use 0, or I could just run use the the patch name and then select the exploit. Or by running the command, I will select the exploit. Set our hosts. What I'm going to do is run the command show options. There it will show me all the required options. Among them are going to be our host and our port. Our port is already set by default, so I'm going to set the R host to the target's IP, which is the production server. So to configure the R host, I'm going to run the command set R host space 192.168.0.18. Then I'm going to verify again by confirming. I'm going to run the command show options. Some of the exploits, such as the Samba, will require me to set a payload. I can set different payloads and test them individually to see which one I'm able to exploit. Some of the payload will fail, which is expected. Exploit vulnerabilities. After setting up all the required options, I'm going to run the command exploit to run the exploit of the VSFTPD backdoor. The top of the image on the right, you can see that the VSFTPD now has been exploited. Entering the command who am I display that I now have the root access, or if I can type the host name, which will display the host, which is metasploitable. The same way I was able to gain root access by exploiting for Samba. See the image below. Backdoor accounts. Next, I was able to create backdoor accounts with root access. I was able to create multiple user accounts with and without setting up any passwords. The web server vulnerability. Now that I was able to exploit from the production server, I'm going to use the web server address and I'm going to exploit. This time I'm going to use Unreal IRCD open port. I will set up the R host as 10.200.0.12, and then I will set the L host as 192.168.0.19. This address I got from my Kali trusted terminal. Then once I have set that up, I can run show option to confirm that all the required options are set up, and then I will exploit. PostgreSQL Metapreter. Exploiting from Postgres SQL, the Metapreter prompt is created in the shell, which allows me to change directory into the root directory. There are several sensitive files that I was able to hack into or gain access to. I was able to view the server.key from Unreal IRCD. As I have mentioned earlier, that for Unreal IRCD, I had to set up the payload to 0. I can verify that I was able to gain access to root directory, and the host is the web server. The web server, sensitive files. Now, some of the sensitive files I found in web server are access to the private key from PostgreSQL that I have shown earlier. From Unreal IRCD, I was able to gain access to candidate list and candidate social security numbers and social media security policy. Now that I can make changes to the policy as well, which I have access to. Production server, the sensitive files. For the production server, I was able to gain access to the admin private keys and as well as the safe combinations. Passcodes. From Kali shell, I ran the command cat space slash etsy slash shadow. There I can see a list of users with their password hash. Uh, Once I keep that terminal open from Kali Trusted application, I open John the Ripper tool. There, I'm going to create a user account where I'm going to transfer that user's password hash. By that, I enter the text file. Then I enter the command John space dash dash shadow space Jasper PW dot txt. Here, so I enter, I can see that I have cracked Jasper's password. And the passwords are displayed there, as you can see. I also was able to gain access to Jorge's passwords and then Armai's password as well. IC bind 9.2. Previously, we have confirmed that the higher the CVSS scores and the more vulnerable they are, even though Samba's CVSS score are moderately lower than most of the other vulnerabilities. After thorough investigation, one thing I was able to conduct was that even with highest CVSS score of 10.0 of ISC bind, 9.4.4 version, 9.4.2 version, I was unable to exploit that. Yet some of the vulnerabilities with lower score, I was able to exploit like Samba. Recommendations, ports that were compromised with root access are 21, 139, 5,432, and 6,667. Closing the unused ports will prevent from being exploited. Changing the configuration will reduce the risk of rogue user accounts of being gained root access. Update the operating system and service to the newer versions in order to avoid being compromised. And also utilizing complex encryption for user passwords so that they cannot be easy to crack. Thank you so much.